this worth the fight? And at the end, yes is the answer. Yes, it is worth the fight.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now. Colin of WYTCH HAZEL, thank you so much for your time as we're talking on a hopefully nicer Friday for you than it is here. I'm calling you from Belgium and it was just raining, but hopefully we'll have a beautiful weekend ahead. I do have to ask you already, before we get into everything, it has been almost a year since your solo acoustic set at the Muscle Rock Church, and we still haven't seen the acoustic album.
When I call out your name, is it just me who is calling you?
What's going on? When is that coming?
Oh, who knows? Who knows when that's coming? When I'm gifted a massive amount of time to finish the project, I think is the answer. It's not without a pain, to be honest, because I would love it to be released. But yeah, one day soon, hopefully.
Yeah. It was great to see the reaction to that show, and clearly also the joy that you got from that as well. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. But until that day, let's focus on Sacrament first, a new album that's coming out. As always, you come across extremely down-to-earth and chill and relaxed. I know this wasn't necessarily the easiest of records to make for you, and we'll get to that. But how do you feel then right now? How do you live up to that release? Is the excitement bubbling inside of you, or are you exactly like we see you right now, super laid back and carefree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally quite laid back. Although Fridays is a good day for being laid back because this is my day. Essentially, this day is provided to me from the fan club, essentially, and our general fans who support the band. So you've got me on a relaxed day. Most of the week I'm busy, just working full time, flat out. I made a band practice last night. I do a full day and then carry on. I'm like a Duracell bunny. I just keep going and going. So I am generally laid back, and I think that's probably how I manage a lot of it. But yeah, where I am at the moment with Sacrament, there is a level of excitement. But as usual with me, there's always a sense of wanting more and wanting to push things forward. So whilst it's nice and it's great to almost kind of be in the moment and accept, I'm generally not living in the moment, always thinking, I'm always pursuing the lots of things all at the same time. So I'm just very kind of anxious and keen to move into the next stage of the band and play our shows. And we got lots of rehearsals, I've got lots of interviews booked for the album promotion. So it's kind of a sense of on the go as well. So yeah.
Every release with you guys, there's more buzz, there's more people interested, more people want to talk to you. But I already hinted at it, not the easiest last few years at the same time. I mean, for everybody in the world, the last few years were not easy. Let's be real. But you had to face some band challenges as well. There were some changes in lineup. To kind of make the parallel to the music, I want to talk about the whole album, the album as a whole in just a second, but let's dig into one of the songs specifically. Angel of Light, the video was released where you basically state, or the protagonist of the song states that they were kind of tricked, almost defeated, looking for a rematch, if you will. Is that part of a biblical story we're telling, or is this really a metaphor for life in a band in the last 2 years?
I think in lots of ways when I'm writing music, it's a bit of both. So often I'll be pulling from a biblical story, or not always a biblical story. I mean, the thing is, the Bible's not a book, so it's tricky to always say exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from a particular book in the Bible. So sometimes I might be pulling from a poem in the Bible, or might be pulling from literal historical account, or just a letter that's written to someone. There's kind of a lot of different types of literature. So depending on, I think a lot of that is maybe the letter to the Ephesians. So Paul's writing a letter, and it's talking about spiritual battles. So he's talking about he's using physical analogies for spiritual kind of like a representation. So in terms of the devil, like a lot of this stuff is in our mind and is in a kind of more of a spiritual realm. So there's that, but then it is at the same time when I'm writing, I am in the moment and living through what's going on. And I think it's important to state with Angel of Light and many songs where a kind of a battle theme is coming through, is that I started 2 projects, as you mentioned, the acoustic project, and I also wrote a full solo album as well, which is not released either. And so the expectation at the beginning of lockdown, after Pentecost, was I'm going to do a solo album, I'm going to do an acoustic project, and when your expectations are not met, there's just a big level of disappointment, and so everything feels like an uphill struggle. So I think Angel of Light and many songs like that are reflective of just like, this is so disappointing and this is really hard to just kind of get up and do this again. And obviously everyone during the pandemic just felt like everything was there's an uncertainty, and everything's like, well, what's happening next? So there's a big mix of things going on there, really, with songs like that.
Now, the way that you've structured the album, with the side A and the side B and kind of the flow of the songs, absolutely, and that theme of battle, and thank you for sharing that, when we hear you very anthemic singing about battle, that kind of is in part dealing with your own demons and as a person as well. But if we kind of step away from that, from song by song, but look at the whole album, it kind of feels like it flows like inside A, like there's some doom is glooming and like is building, and it looks like we're getting ready for this massive confrontation, which then by the end of side A kind of seems to be right at the moment, and then side B we kick off with a ton of energy and we feel like we're right in this middle of this battle between good and evil, if you will, with maybe not the most positive ending at the end of the album, or that there are some glimmers of hope, but then don't want to give too much away for people that haven't had a chance to listen to the full album yet. Is that in a way at all a right interpretation of the album, or is this me just projecting my own interpretation onto the album?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in all honesty, the way the album's put together is first and foremost put together in a way that it makes the most musical sense. At the same time, I think what happens is there's, throughout our album release, there's been many happy accidents. I mean, Sojourn was more of an intentional structuring, but to my mind, the music has to flow first. And if by happenstance that some of the songs kind of flow in a more narrative way, then that's a real bonus. But although there are intentional moments, so for example, I think like the opening of the album with a question is something I just like to do quite a lot of the time. Lots of questioning, and exploring those themes. And as I've gone through album writing, I tend to do more of a like, well, what would be the next step, and write in that way. But Digging Deeper is another deliberate finisher, because I feel like it wraps up where I was. So, for example, when I wrote Pentecost, it was pre-pandemic. The songs were written before the pandemic and released during, and then this album was written mid-pandemic, and so the songs are like in that place. So and Digging Deeper's really kind of sums up. I mean, and I think Time and Doubt is quite a good one as well, on the subject of just like I don't feel like I've got anything left, and so the feeling to leave people with is that it's almost like this is my expression of where I am right now. It's almost like the statement of the album, Digging Deeper. But like you said, there's always glimmers of hope. There's glimmers of hope at the end of that song. I do like to finish on, at the end of the song, it's kind of like go for all this. I'm just digging deep, and there's another set, and the guitars are almost representative of like,
Right.
I'm just throwing as much as I can before I completely collapse. I'm going to throw more guitars. I'm going to work really hard on a good guitar solo I just really dig deep, even for the solo. And then at the end, the melodic kind of, the melody shifts, and I think the essential at the end of that song, it's as if to say, look, all of this music, if you just look at the music and think, actually, that's what I have to offer, that I've got to kind of have that. And if I listen to the melodies and things, that there almost can be like offerings, a sacrament. The music itself is an offering, and it's almost I'm almost speaking to myself at the end of that song, saying, look, you can write music, you do have something to offer, and it is a spiritual thing. And so at the end of the song, that kind of, it's quite a kind of a solemn song, it's a very much a wrestling song. At the end, my message is to myself first and foremost: you do have more to give. There's more music, and you do have a purpose. And so and it's all for a reason. It's not, I'm just not digging deeper for no reason, because often it feels in the lyrics like, what's all this for? I'm so exhausted. Is this worth the fight? And at the end, yes is the answer. Yes, it is worth the fight.
Just to address the lineup changes that have happened in the last few years, how is it going as a band? Like, how are the people, like, I've not had a chance to see you live in this lineup. How is everybody kind of like adjusting to the new team, if you will?
It's going really well, actually. I mean, I think probably anytime you speak to a band who has a new lineup, they will say, "Oh yeah, it's the best ever." But
of course, yeah.
but it does feel like we're at a place where we've sort of arrived. It's been in all honesty, it's been a tough couple of years in terms of lineup changes, and because of the complexity of the situation, there's elements which it's just futile for me to try and even unpack the details, and so we don't share some of the details, kind of at our latest change of drummer and stuff, and it's difficult to even talk about like things are going well, and everything is, all the lineup changes are, everything's kind of confirming that it was the right decision, and I think we're really enjoying our shows. But I think musically speaking, things are just going really well. I don't know what else to really add.
Yeah. Now, when you say that, and also I forget what prompted you to make the comment. I think it was somewhere on your Instagram where you kind of said, or maybe it's just in the description of your Instagram page, that you say like, well, Witch Hazel is what if the NWOBHM happened 600 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
Given that you guys are so different from the stereotypical template of a massive amount, especially in North America, pray and praise rock bands and what have you, would it be almost be fair to say that much more than quote unquote a Christian metal band, you are a medieval metal band, and that there is more of a historic approach than a religious approach in a way? Is it sometimes annoying that people will, like, for certain reasons, for certain valid reasons, categorize you in a group that you don't really fit in?
I think there's a sense in which we will never fit in, because there's a sense in which I've never fit in. Because essentially, right, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I've had some interviews recently say, like, oh, you played drums and stuff on this record, like, is this not just a solo project? And I think, well, it's always been a bit like that, yeah, and we're an unusual type of band in that sense. So Witch Hazel is very much me, and everyone knows that, and the band know that. They're at the same time, it's very much a band in lots of other senses. So yeah, like, it works well because I kind of have the final say and I write up the music and all that, but we're very much a band. But when the music's the most important thing, and I am kind of the most control freak around the whole music. So in a sense, WYTCH HAZEL is very much me, and I've never really fit in. I don't always feel like I fit in with other Christians.
Right.
I, at the same time, I connect on a deep level with Christians because of our shared belief.
Sure.
At the same time, I can have similar experiences going to like a heavy metal festival, and I connect on a deep musical level with. I feel like these are my people, and it doesn't matter that they don't share the same spiritual beliefs as me. So, but at the same time, I sometimes go there and think, oh, well, I don't get drunk and do all these other things. So I sometimes feel like, oh, I don't belong with these people, but I don't belong with these people. At the same time, you know, as Christians, it does say like we're literally aliens and we don't belong here. And we you know, our home is in heaven, you know, our final destination. And there's a sense in which we don't belong and we're merely sojourners in a foreign land, basically. So I think that the idea that I don't belong is probably quite a normal part of being a Christian, perhaps. But yeah, I don't really get annoyed when people say, "Oh, WYTCH HAZEL a Christian band." In fact, like it works. Genre isn't particularly helpful for a lot of bands, but at the same time, people need a way of categorizing you. You literally have to put your genre when putting your music on the internet and things like that. So. People need a way of categorizing. Well, what's it like? It's a gateway into the music. So I think, well, if people like Stryper and Bloodgood and these other bands, they might like WYTCH HAZEL. They might not, because they're like, well, where's all the Jesus every 5 seconds?
Where's the colorful spandex? I mean, beyond white.
That's the thing. WYTCH HAZEL is just very much. The way I categorize it, WYTCH HAZEL is just all the things I like about music and bands. So I don't really understand the approach where people say, I'm going to start a band, and I think the most successful thing is if we make the band like this. Right. That's not my approach. I just sit down and write music, and I think, well, what's my? I like high-pitched vocals. I like twin guitars. I like anthemic choruses, and so all my favorite rock music is just in. That's what I do for the band. I like flamboyant stage clothes. I like putting on a good show. I like it being just about the music. I like positivity and brightness and white things. Obviously, everything's white. So the band is just what I like to do. I don't really. It doesn't bother me that people compare us to other people, especially when they compare us to amazing bands. It's great. So I'm not really. I just do what I love, and I'll just continue doing that. But we are fairly unique. But everyone's unique, so I suppose it's not surprising in that sense.
Right,
you're unique, just like everyone else.
Exactly. That was an answer of somebody that, besides being a musician, you're also just, and we know that about you, a massive music lover. And I think we probably spent half our time last time talking about your record collection and other stuff, and talking about how more like this submerging adventure rock scene that, you know, given that this is the music that you love so much, you must be pretty excited as well to see what's going on around the world, like fantastic albums in the last year by Phantom Spell. The new Tainef is really good. Crownlands in Canada is playing some really cool stuff. And me getting to talk to all these bands, and more of these bands. I was talking to Tainef 2-3 weeks ago, and then they reference you guys as like, wow, like this is something that we really like, and that we're honored to be considered in the same scene as WYTCH HAZEL. Like, what's that like for you as a fan of music to see this style of music that you just so eloquently described, whether or not everybody plays in white, we'll leave that up to them, is gaining so much traction, and we're just seeing it's not just the old bands that are still playing music after 50 years, it's new bands that are popping up and releasing quality material. As a pure music fan, like, what's this like for you?
It's interesting. I suppose I'm not fully aware of everything that's going on, but there does seem to be like, oh, these new bands, and they're doing really well. So Phantom Spell, kind of, it's a Seven Sisters project, but it just instantly did well because it's just a market ready, like, play Keep It True as your first show, go. You know, it's just there's fans ready, and like people just love like the melodic nature. Although I always joke like, you know, if it's not melodic, what is it? If it's music, but you know, it's it's tricky. I mean, it's nice to hear that. I mean, I already kind of knew, and I kind of we played with Satan a few times,
Right.
so I know Russ. And you know we're basically just fanboys of each other. You know, this is the same with Kyle. So like, you know, this is a thing like with Kyle out of Seven Sisters and Phantom Spell. Like, we're just fans of each other. We're all like, you know, like Phantom Spell, and the same with Halas. We played with them, and we're like, we just love each other's bands. So like, you take like Phantom Spell, Tanith, Halas, WYTCH HAZEL. We all just love each other. So like, we all just are like, we all like the same things. So it just makes, but it's really nice in that sense just to be part of, and we're not kind of, I don't feel particularly like it's a competition. I just want all those bands. We all want each other to do really well. So it's more of like, you know, like the country scene where they're all a family and they're like really nice about each other. It's more like that, really. It's great to be part of, and it's really nice to see those bands doing well. And I love that Tanith are on Metal Blade and they're just doing really well. And I just want the best for them. And it's the same with anything that Kyle touches as well. Like, I just want him all the success in the world. So, and Halas, I think that's just great that they're just onwards and upwards. I think it's fabulous that a band like that can have success and make a living. I think it's just wonderful, really, to be honest. So no, it's great.
Awesome. Right after we spoke last time, it was in the lead up towards Christmas of 2020, I guess, and you were about to release your charity single Auld Lang Syne, which came out so unique and so well. Nothing has really, I think you shared at that time that you're not the biggest fan necessarily of, first of all, Christmas singles, but the recording covers in general. But when you get to really dissect and rebuild a song in a way like you did with that classic, is there, I mean, obviously WYTCH HAZEL original songs are always going to be your priority, or at least for the foreseeable future, but is there like, as that fan of music, like a song that you'd love to, you know, claw at and do something fun with?
Yeah, I mean, there's just, I mean, there's almost endless ideas, really. Like, there's so many things I could be doing, and all of it just essentially, I sound like a like a stuck record a lot of the time because I'm always saying like, I've got this, I want to do the WYTCH HAZEL acoustic album, and I want to do my solo project, and which is a completely different style of music, and I'd love to be doing covers. I mentioned it more recently, but then I want to do a really good job, and often want to make it completely different from the original, if not like rewrite it, because Auld Lang Syne really, it's kind of very close to a rewrite. It's kind of like the lyrics are there, and there's a bit of the melody's not really the same. So I actually prefer to do something quite unique with the song, because if I don't really enjoy straight covers. And we'll never be a cover band in that sense. But yeah, there's just almost endless ideas. I mean, I'd love to do like a Fleetwood Mac song or something and do just a completely different job. And this is the thing, I feel like if there's a lighter song, we want to do like a much heavier version, or if it was like a heavier song. And I was thinking recently, like, is there some like really heavy like black metal that we can like change the lyrics and then do like an acoustic-y version? Because some of that music's so unbelievably good, and like the melodies that go on, you think, oh wow. Because sometimes you listen to some really intense, aggressive black metal, and you can just sing a really nice melody over the top that just sounds beautiful, really. And I think I'd love to do something like really different like that. I've just got a bunch of ideas. It all just comes down to like, right, I'm in a season of no at the moment, really. Like, I'd love to be saying yes to all these things, but I have to I realise that working full time and all that stuff, I have to prioritise the band. But it's very much in the forefront of my mind, all these things, and I would have thought a lot of them get done. But interestingly, I'm actually working on another Christmas song that I hope to get out this year. So we shall see. There may be another Christmas song, and perhaps even a Christmas single with the 2 tracks. So that's the plan, but we will see if that comes to fruition or not, because, well, vinyl delays and all that sort of thing. We'll have to see.
Sure.
Hopefully it will.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like this exceptionally quiet Friday is something that you really need to cherish, because it doesn't sound like you're gonna have a whole lot of time to sit around.
No, not at all. I'm off to record later on, so.
Exactly. Colin, as always, really excited for a new Witch Hazel record. I've had a chance, obviously, to listen to the whole album, and I'm really excited for the release of this one. It looks fantastic too, always such a blast talking to you. I can't wait to see all the announcements of shows and more festivals and so on, and I hope that you are extremely busy for a long time, because that means that people like me have a chance to enjoy more of your work. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of a Friday, and can't wait to see you on a stage.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks very much for the opportunity. Thanks a lot.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it, and subscribe to the channel.